Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, how are we getting on? So we are back in the glowing sea again today, and we're going to build a lookout tower, sort of sniper's position up here on the ridge. So as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button. Let's get stuck in. Okay, it's a relatively simple one today, bit of a set piece for the build, which is going to grow somewhat. I've got a bit of a bigger plan, I should say, for this, so it's looking like it'll be quite cool. I knew from pretty much when I started building the initial house on the other side of the rock here, so just outside, you can see it poking around the corner there actually, that I wanted to build something up here, and a lookout tower, sort of sniper's den, sort of fits the bill. So using the foundation there to form the base of it, just group selecting that in. Just took a little bit of fiddling to get it into position, but it's on a bit of an angle, but I kind of like that, makes it look a little more organic. So my theory behind this was, when I first arrived here, sort of moved through the area, there were a couple of deathclaws hanging around, one a bit further away, but right up here on the ridge was a, I think it was a chameleon deathclaw, thinking about it. And I dealt with that in fairly standard fashion, keep it as far away as possible and use a sniper rifle. And it went down quite quickly, to be fair. But it seemed like a sensible setup for anybody living out here would want somewhere they can keep creatures like that at a distance and take pot shots from. So there will eventually be a wall around the whole compound, and this will be sort of a place they can sit up there and just deal with any threats like that. So, did easy to get that one on top. Just use the shack upper floor, snap it onto the side of the prefab there, and then snap the other prefab on top. Stairs in for a guide at this stage, so basically going to stay there, but get a bit of fiddling around with them in a bit. And we'll just block off the bottom here, make it look a little bit more solid. Started out with the chain link fences here, which create a good base for it. I ended up wanting something a little bit more permanent looking, so we add on to it in a bit. It also forms quite an interesting base for the sort of side rails on the top section. Makes a change from the standard anyway. That's why I'm nudging it up a little bit here. There we go. Eventually. And we'll repeat that around the other side as well. So one good thing about working in this area, apart from, as I say, where the debris is down on the bottom, for the most part, it's reasonably forgiving about sinking stuff in. Even the rocks and everything, there's no trouble with it. Which is a lot more convenient than some places are on that. There we go. Getting these to sort of look like they're properly attached is a bit of a fiddly job, but it does work in the end. Just having them just sort of leaning up against it. There we go. And already we have the bare bones of it. So we'll plug up the gaps a little bit here. Which in hindsight probably wasn't actually necessary with this one, but once again it was more of a vague picture in my head that I expanded on. There we go, that's about right. I've not got so far as figuring out the lore behind driving those wooden posts into solid rock, but I'd imagine if you're here long enough you'd figure out a way of doing it. Texture freak out there. Funny, I didn't notice that at the time. So, you do a couple of wooden half walls on the corners here just to make the whole thing look a little bit sturdier, a little bit more permanent. There we go. Having the stairs in first just makes it a lot easier to see where things are lining up, and saves you the inevitable can't snap it on later thing. Although if you're concerned about pathing, sometimes it's worth being able to test that before you push on too much further. It's just because the thing will go in doesn't mean they'll be able to path over it. That shouldn't be too much of an issue here, especially now we've got the nav mesh rugs. It might make it a bit easier. Maybe. We'll see. And that's basically the gist of how we're going to do it. So, rather than just watch me repeat exactly the same thing, we'll push on. So one of the retextured railings here is the rusted one there. Snap that in, plug the gap. This unfortunately won't snap, but with a little bit of rug glitching, we can just position it in nice and easily. Make sure it lines up flush with the front of the posts on the prefab. It should do the job. Here we go. Have to nudge it over a little bit so it doesn't look too much like it's sticking through there on the sides. It just about fits. There we go. Yeah, this is another of the new objects added by ESO. I noticed here that the railings with just using the chain link for them look a little too flimsy for the type of build we're going for. I wanted something a little bit sturdier. So I thought we'll get this shiny new object we've got to play with and slide that one in there. And it continues on the sort of strengthening out the bottom part as well. Two birds with one stone. There we go. Unfortunately, it didn't look right when I tried a similar sort of thing on this side. So, just ended up group selecting a railing straight in instead. The end result is more or less what we were looking for anyway, so it's all good. Original thought was to have it look like it sort of nailed over the chain link, but didn't really look very good, so just pushed it on right through there. So here, I want the staircase to follow the line of the ground. See where the slope starts compared to the rest of it there. So I wanted a bit of an angled section here, so the staircase will take a curve. Which was a bit of a faff to do. Here I wanted a shack floor, this one specifically, on top of the scaffolding rather than the normal scaffolding floor. But that won't snap directly to the frame. You have to put a couple of scaffolding floors on there and then snap to those instead. Which took a bit of fiddling around, but we got there. Clearly this is floating too much. I didn't want to use a long one and just have it stick straight through the ground, which then get in the way of other things I'm going to build in a minute. But this looks a lot more organic, more suitable. So, a couple of cinder blocks just to deal with the floating on it. This was intended to be a quick, easy fix to tidy up the end of the staircase, but it ended up getting a lot longer because of how steep the ground is here. Ended up building sort of an improvised staircase up to the main staircase, but the results are what count, and they do look rather good. Well, I think so anyway. The trick with those is to make sure the top one's not visibly clipping through. Not that you're able to see them really anyway, but I'd know they were there. Especially as once they're on top of the other cinder block, they end up looking more like, acting rather, more like they're being rug glitched. Same principle anyway, so it'll just clip straight through. It's something to be aware of. Wanted to line up the step here with the cross piece on the slightly more ruined pallet there, but again we have a slight height issue, so too high, and we'll slide that back in again. Yeah, a little bit fiddly to get lined up, but get there in the end. All a bit wonky, but again, it just suits the organic part. And I thought I'd got that there, but no. Can't step up onto the pallets too high, so another step just to smooth that out, and there we go. So, although this is actually going to be inside the main settlement walls, there'll be another set going up, possibly even in the next part. I haven't quite decided yet. I did want to wall off this specific structure, not really for security, more just sort of for the finished set piece look of the thing. I think it works out more or less as I had in mind. It's a mixture of just straight up group select and rug and pillar here. This was slightly awkward on this slope. There we go. To be honest, using an ordinary wall rather than this corner piece might have been easier here. So we're lining it up with the edge there on the left. And it's a bit awkward, but it works. A slight bit of floating there, but it's supported all the rest of the way around, so it didn't bother me too much. It's a little lower, or appears to be, from the inside than you might normally go for, but it does sort of fit the lay of the land a little better. Plus you can see over the top of it more easily from the tower, which is kind of the point. Same thing again here. So on the other side of the door, just lining that one up with the corner. There we go. So there's a bit of trouble using the small rug with this one. If it will sit on that, and it's so far underneath I can't see what I'm doing anyway, so... Large rug for this particular junk wall, which is another of Aslam's ones. Is Workshop Junk Wall Pack. Which is... I didn't use any of the other ones from this particular mod, just because they're a bit too bulky. Even this one's pushing it a bit. But because it's reasonably flat, it sort of still works. Like that. Although I think I probably will try and mix and match a few in there with the main settlement walls, which are going to be quite the project when I actually do those. I've got quite a lot in mind for them. So mixing up so I'm not just using the same junk walls all the time. I'm going to use a half wall here. That's in the regular wall tower. Or a 3/4 wall, I think, actually. I've got a slightly odd rug glitching position on them, which in hindsight I didn't actually need to rug glitch them at all. They were just pillar glitched in just fine. Group select. I'm lining up there with the ridge, so it's a little too far over there. Yeah, it sticks out a little bit too much there. So I'll nudge it back a little bit. Unfortunately, when I come to take the rug away, it does pop down a little more than I wanted it to. So the idea here is spin around, drop it where it's green, let it snap back, and there we go, it drops too far. Which I was kind of hoping it wouldn't do, but I think it just hits that point that the rug attaches and stops there, which is a slight problem. So a little bit of judicious group selected, it goes back where we want it now, so all good. This one's quite handy for this small gap here. Looks quite well like it's nailed on as well, which I like. That one I did use the rug with. Back from the tyres on the other side. This one I actually ended up coming back during the decoration phase and glitching a chain link fence over the gaps because they were just a bit too big and it just didn't really feel right. There's a retextured metal corner piece there just to mix things up a little bit. This kind of slots quite nicely over the end of it there, which I was quite happy about. But we do have a slight gap there. Close off with the corrugated half wall. The idea is to try and make it look like the outer planks of that previous half wall are nailed over the top of the corrugated bit. Unfortunately, I still managed to leave a gap, so I'll stick a fence post in, and that should do the job. There we go. So just a quick finish off around the other side. Again, mix and match the textures a little bit. We use a warehouse piece here. This is actually one of the vanilla pieces. Just nice and easy group select into place. Line it up so it's a reasonable height. As these junk walls are roughly the same height as the normal pieces, whereas the warehouse ones for some reason are about a third higher. Here we go. And then much the same again with this piece. I spun it round because I thought having the higher end of the half wall at the next to the taller junk wall next to it, so the other way around to it is now, would make more sense, but when I actually came to look at it, the crossbar on it makes it look more like it's fixed into place, especially with the crossbar sticking out on the warehouse piece to the right there. So it just looks a little more believable. So back onto the staircase, now that we know where it needs to end. I'm going to use this little curve of the rock there as a walkway up to the door. So you can more or less just walk straight up, but I wanted to sort of add a bit to it, give it a bit more texture, make it stand out as a distinct walkway. So I'm going to put a few stairs in there, a few boards to make it look a little bit more finished. It's a little wonky there. Not quite what I had in mind, so adjust that. I probably could have just shoved the pillar straight in there and tweaked it, but so much habit from working in confined spaces. You end up matching up with the line of the rock just here, and then it looks much neater and tidier. Yeah, much more like it's a permanent structure. Of course, it's floating naturally. Couldn't be convenient. Put this one in on a bit of an angle. As the ground sticks out, you need a little bit of room to work with if you're walking around it. There we go. At this stage, I could literally have just left it, but I thought with a little rise here and a few parts where the rock sticks up a little bit more significantly, it suited the build to have a few steps in there. Add a little bit more life to it. Wasn't really happy with the gap there, so a bit of plywood, just group select that straight in. Took quite a while deciding just how I wanted this to sit. I'm not entirely happy with how it sinks into the ground, but my options are a little limited there. Eventually make my mind up with how I want it looking. There we go. And there's a lot of repetition to this bit, so I do apologise for that, but you can kind of see where we're going with it. You can sort of see the curve of the rock compared to what's more like the ground towards the left a little. That we're kind of following with the right hand edge of the staircase there. Yep. Just get a little bit around the corner there. Stop flinging the controller all over the place. There we go. That's nearly it. There we go. That's nice and smooth. Put one last board in on the top to cover that little step down there. We have a nice clean walkway up. And just finished off. Stick a few fences in there. Which again are a group select job, so that they don't stick through the ground any more than they have to. In fact, I don't think they'll snap into the ground that much anyway. But they are reasonably forgiving on the group select. Felt this, although it's not really designed to be a security type feature, it's more of an aesthetic thing. Felt it was looking a little too low there, so group select another one in on the top. And there we go. There's a few points where you could literally just hop over it. In fact, I did so repeatedly. But so it's there for the look more than the actual security. It will be inside a larger walled compound when we get that far. Just have a quick look at this bit. Let's see what we're doing, and that's pretty much the build. Just a little bit of decoration needed now. And obviously the rest of this fence. But I don't need to repeat myself too many times. Just line up the posts. Some ways it's easier to just focus on the post. When it looks right, you know it's lined up properly. It's abundantly obvious if the fence isn't where it's supposed to be. So, let's take a look around the place. Aslam's got a few tyres with plants in them that I thought would make interesting decorations to the top of the tyre wall there. So I just used a concrete pillar and a length of conduit to get the reach in there and just group selected those into the top. Unfortunately there are some larger ones, but they didn't quite look the part. So not exactly secure on the path here, but that's not really what we were going for. Just gives it that completed look. Got a nice little walkway up to the front gate. Very happy with the overall look of this place. Took me a while to decide what door I wanted to use. I ended up having to group select this one in because it opened the wrong way. I would have liked to put a bit more decoration down the bottom there, but with the sort of terrain it didn't really look right, just too much glitched in through the rock. Got a sniper rifle up here ready for any creature that might wander too close. A few bits and pieces from Aston's workshop decoration pack, that's the one. You can see we've got a pretty good view out here. So it's more of a sniper's position than a lookout. It's not the sort of place I feel I need to have somebody stationed all the time. There we go. Plenty of room for a bit of storage if they need it as well. See how I feel on down the line. Thank you very much for watching as always. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, do hit those buttons for me. It's always very much appreciated. And if you'd like to keep up to date with everything going on the channel, social media links down in the description. And I shall be speaking to you very, very soon. Thank you very much.